Today, I'm going to tell you a cave diving story that is unusual. A diver named Donald, who was obsessed with looking for new caves and mapping them out, visited a very deadly cave in New Jersey. He was accompanied by his two sons, Christopher and Roger, and 12 scouts. As we all know, caving is an incredibly challenging exploration to attempt, and it can be very deadly. One of those caves is the Crooked Swamp Cave. It's the most advanced and least visited cave in New Jersey. It is in the rural, north-central part of the country. It's a three-part cave system that was formed when many springs slowly dissolved. It has many parallels and connects various passages, amounting to 1,200 feet. It's said to be the longest cave in New Jersey. In the second part of the cave, to successfully reach the 5-foot high room, it's advised that it should be attempted by slim divers because of easy passage. It requires a lot of body squeezing to get past that stage, and because of the potential hazard in that area, great caution is to be exercised. That is why visitors need to inform the New Jersey Conservatory to arrange for a tour guide before exploring the Crooked Swamp Cave. On Saturday, March 27th, Donald, his two sons, and the 12 scouts explored the Crooked Swamp Cave. They made their way to the second part of the cave, which required crawling in with their hands and knees to get inside because of the small height and width of the entrance. For safety reasons, the scouts were told to stay together and even use a buddy system just in case of an emergency. Donald was not worried much about the scouts getting stuck because they were smaller than he was, but still, many obstacles could pose a threat. The walls of the cave were cold and wet with a pungent smell. Going through a small room at the back of the cave, a connection could be made from the cave to two other caves in the Crooked Swamp system. As a lover of finding new caves and mapping them out, Donald secretly wanted to find those two new caves that were connected to the second part of the Crooked Swamp Cave. He had previously made attempts to go through the small room, but always failed because his friends wanted to go back before getting to the room. Just like Donald, the scouts always wanted to find out the cave's connection and go through that small room that they had heard about. As soon as there was no proper supervision, the scouts scattered about and they started to explore the forbidden offshoots of the caves. Because of their small size and speed, it was quite easy for the scouts to make their way around the cave, but the scouts were scattered around. They were not following the instructions given, and it was becoming harder to control the situation. Seeing the way things turned out, Donald felt it was best to end the exploration. However, Donald wanted to go through that small room and discover the cave connection before ending the trip. At this point, Donald was extremely excited to explore a new part of the cave. Not taking note of his surroundings anymore, he began to make his way through the small room. As he continued to make his way in, the cave was getting narrower, and this was a challenge because he was bigger than the scouts. He was going deeper and squeezing his body to get through the passages. His clothes were ripped and slime-covered by that point, but he didn't care. All he cared about was getting to the small room. As it got deeper, the passages got extremely narrow, to the extent that he could no longer walk. He could only get through by crawling. First his head, then his body, into a cone-shaped passage. At first, he was trying to wiggle his way around, but it became unbearable in no time, and he realized that there was a problem. His shoulder and hips had been pinned, and his head had been stuck at an angle downward. He tried to squeeze and wiggle himself out, but to no avail. He continued trying to get himself out, but then he felt the passage getting tighter on him. It was becoming difficult for him to breathe at this point. He then noticed that he had freed a stone, and whenever he tried to move it back, it tightened, but when he moved forward, it loosened. As he tried to squeeze himself out, the freed stone kept getting him stuck even more. Now that he had started to experience a fast heartbeat, his heart had to work harder to pump blood to all parts of the body because it was upside down and adrenaline was increasing. The only thing Donald could think of in this situation that would get him out of this place was help from another person. And because of that, he called for help by trying to yell, but unfortunately, there was no one close enough to hear his voice. After some time, there was good news. One of the scouts, fortunately, was able to hear his voice and was able to trace the voice to where Donald was. The scout instantly rushed to where Donald's sons were and told him about their dad's situation so they could come help their dad. When Christopher and Roger got to their dad, they started trying to pull him out without delay, but it was far from an easy task because it took them about 1.5 hours trying to get a hold of him by the legs. Some other scouts joined them, but everything they were trying was not working. After everything failed, Roger suggested that they get a message across to the troop to inform them about their dad's situation and that they needed urgent help to get him out of the cave. Christopher went ahead to do as Roger said. Remember, because of the downward position of Donald's heart, the heart was working overtime to keep him alive. The longer rescue was delayed, the higher the possibility that the heart would stop working. Many rescue groups were deployed from far and near to rescue Donald. They tried to pull him out with his feet, and they also approached from other sides of the cave, but all were not successful. To make matters worse, the temperature inside the cave was high, up to 57 degrees. He couldn't take in fluid or other sustaining provisions, and his position required lots of effort. It was a lot of pain for Donald. Another type of pain that he was experiencing was emotional pain. The thought of hopelessness as he was seeing all the rescue efforts not working, and all the feeling of regret that he allowed ambition and excitement to cloud what he usually teaches his scout troop, which is safety. More expert cavers poured in, and many strategies were tried, including drilling, ropes, and chiseling. They only had access to his feet, and that was not helping the matter. Donald was moaning in pain, losing more strength with every passing second. The situation was now helpless. The next day, rescue attempts continued, and more extreme steps were taken, which at the same time caused a lot of damage to Donald. For example, during the rescue, there were cuts inflicted on his back and head, some of his ribs were broken, and rocks hit him and cut his skin, which resulted in lots of blood loss. Donald was a mess, with pain all over. Because of his prolonged exposure to the cave's walls, his body temperature started dropping from 98.6 degrees to below 80 degrees. Rescue teams had concluded that he had no chance of survival at that point. Grunts were heard from him in the afternoon of the third day, but at that time, the rescue team was about to pull him just about 12 inches out of the cave, and doctors estimated that he would likely die from hypothermia or loss of blood. After 3 days of fighting for his life and all the massive rescue operations by several rescue teams, Donald was pronounced dead. 20 minutes after his pronouncement, the rescue team used dynamite and backhoes to tear him out of the bedrock hillside around the cave, and they were finally able to retrieve his body. I hope you enjoyed this video. Kindly drop your thoughts in the comment section. Also, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel to get more premium videos. See you soon.